Now, Props and Locks on Fox 32 Chicago. Presented by Bet River Sportsbook.
Good Sunday morning and welcome to Props and Locks. I'm Caitlin Sharkey. We've made it to Week 17, the regular season finale, with plenty of games today deciding playoff fates. Joining me every Sunday morning, VSiN expert Danny Burke to help me break down the best bets, odds, and props courtesy of Bet River Sportsbook. And Danny, let's begin with an NFC North battle between the Packers and Bears. Bears, the 4-point underdog at home, playing for a wild card spot. Green Bay playing for the top seed in the NFC. Packers are 18-7 against the spread with Rodgers as the starting quarterback, over under at 50. Packers lost left tackle David Bakhtiari to an ACL injury. Bears missing Jalen Johnson and Buster Screen. So what is the best play, Danny, for a spread like this one?
Caitlin, in my opinion, it's hard not to look the way of Green Bay. Unfortunately, for all the Bears fans out there, I hate to say it, but in my opinion, Bakhtiari, yes, that's a monumental loss for the long term, but in this game, I don't think it's worth the line movement going in favor of Chicago. We saw this go as high as 6, and now we're seeing it at 4. And the big stat you brought up as well, Aaron Rodgers, 18-7 ATS when he's starting the last 25 games against Chicago. Not only that, they've covered the last 3. So I do think you're actually getting value now with Green Bay laying the 4 against Chicago. And also, look, they still have a lot to play for. So they're still going for the #1 seed. And not only that, you always just want to beat down on your division rival and prevent them from going to the postseason. So I think the move here is to lean with Green Bay. I know a lot of sharper people have been on Chicago because it's over a field goal. But if you're having the points under the touchdown with Aaron Rodgers, I know the Bears defense is great, but I look toward Green Bay in this spot.
I was going to say, looking at that over-under of 50, we know the Bears have scored 30-plus points in their last 4 straight games. Packers have no problem scoring points as well. But when it comes to these two coming to a head in Week 17, what do you think about that total?
It's kind of fascinating to see a Bears total at 50 as the opener because we're not accustomed to having a lot of points, and we know the defense always does a really good job as well. But you have to take into account the defenses they were going up against. So I stay away from it a little bit in that regard. I would probably lean a little bit over, though, because of how they've been doing well on the ground game. And Trubisky has gotten a rhythm, even though they've been against worse defenses. Maybe that's giving him more confidence, and he'll let loose a little bit more so. So if the Bears, if you believe they can get you those points, because we know the Packers are going to get them, then I would look over because you're really counting on Chicago. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is another higher scoring affair for these teams.
All right, before we move on to our next game, let's talk about prop bets for this showdown. And you're looking at Packers running back Aaron Jones in this one, correct, Danny?
Yeah, so Aaron Jones' rushing prop is at 64.5. Now, Jones is averaging 82 rushing yards per game, and with this mark at 64.5, he's gone over this in 9 out of 13 games. Also, remember what he did the last time around against Chicago. About 17 carries, racked up 90 yards. Williams got over 70 rushing yards as well. Now, the Bears have a great run defense. They rank 4th in DVOA run defense. They allow 115 rushing yards per game, actually more than the Packers do, which is kind of odd to look at. But I do think Aaron Jones still gets implemented and utilized tremendously. And I think they're going to try to slow down the pace, take control of the game. So I like Aaron Jones over his rushing yards prop of 64.5.
All right, and keep in mind the Bears will have Akeem Hicks in this matchup as well. Next up, 2 teams battling for last place in the NFC North. The Minnesota Vikings taking on the Lions in Detroit. Minnesota laying 4. Vikings 0-6 against the spread in the last 6 games. They were without Dalvin Cook. Over under at 53.5. Danny, hard to see these two teams hitting the over in this one.
And that's kind of the way I lean here, too. And some respected people I know did look toward the under. You saw this total at about 55 at its highest point. Now it's circling around 53.5. So I would lean under in this spot. Matt Stafford is going to play, but like you said, no Dalvin Cook. And these teams really have nothing to play for except for pride at this point. And when it comes to the spread, I do look toward the lines as well, taking the 4. I think Stafford coming in, showing that he wants to play in this game is pretty big and probably going to motivate some of his players. And, Caitlin, we go back and forth with this Minnesota team all the time. You can't trust them. I don't care what game it is. Maybe they get the win, but I just don't know if they're going to get the cover here. So I look toward Detroit here, as ugly as it is. It's not going to be something that I personally use as a best bet, but if I'm leaning anyway, with no real implications on the line, I think you just look at the dog in this spot and for a lower scoring game. So I look under, and I would probably take the points with Detroit if I'm playing anything.
Maybe a smart play to avoid the Vikings altogether, Danny. In the AFC, the Dolphins and Bills with Buffalo favored by 1.5. Miami needs a win to clinch a postseason berth. No Fitz magic for them. Ryan Fitzpatrick on the COVID-19 list. Danny, Buffalo seems to be rolling right now behind Josh Allen. Does that continue in the regular season finale?
You know, I think it does, Caitlin, and this line's been going back and forth, got as high as 3, and now it's back down in favor of Miami. Not that they're the favorite, but the line movement has been going their direction. Now, this one's kind of, I'm in a conundrum here because I made a bet earlier this season for the Dolphins to make the playoffs, but I don't really like them in the spot because, like you alluded to, the Bills have been an absolute force to be reckoned with right now, and they're still vying for a number 2 seed. So we'll see how long they keep their starters in. And I do like Tua. I think I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. As long as his receivers can catch some of those balls and he's accurate enough, they can move it. And defensively, we know how sound they are. So it's going to be a close one, but really it's kind of unknown for me. I'm hoping the Dolphins win for my bet to cash, but honestly, I kind of think the Bills get the win in this spot. So I lean toward them and might end up hedging my bet.
Yeah, I'm going with Buffalo, but what do you think of that over-under at 42? Seems kind of low.
You know, it is a tad bit low, and I guess the reasoning would be because, like we just talked about, the Dolphins do have a good defense. Second time these teams are playing, and it's usually closer when it's a division game. And Buffalo, they might not have their starters the whole time. So I still think the Bills are going to get their share of points, but can the Dolphins contribute enough? Because this Bills defense was a side of the ball that really struggled to start the year, but then they started picking it up as of late, especially in the first half. They've been a great defensive team, but that's what the Dolphins are going to need to do, get out to a hot start. And if you think they can, then I would look this total over as well.
All right, still more to come on this Week 17 edition of Props and Locks. More of Burke's Best Bets as we continue with our slate of games. And a reminder, you can always place your bets at BetRivers.com or using the BetRivers mobile app. We're back after this.
We're back with more Props and Locks, presented by BetRivers Sportsbook.
Welcome back to Props and Locks. I'm Caitlin Sharkey, joined by VSiN expert Danny Burke. Danny, let's keep rolling with our regular slate of regular season finale games. This next one, an important one for Bears fans scoreboard watching this afternoon. The Cardinals and Rams in an NFC West showdown. Arizona, the 2.5-point favorite, playing for that wild card spot. Rams will be without Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp. Cam Akers will play. Danny, I've liked the Rams earlier this season, but I do not think that will be the case this week.
Yeah, you know, we don't know what we're going to get from John Wolford, right? I mean, we have no tape on the guy, and it's a really tricky spot for Los Angeles, and really unfortunate for what happened with Jared Goff, but it's always tricky to handicap against a team with a new quarterback, no matter who it is. And you also factor in this Cardinals team, Caitlin, that we always talk about, loves to shoot themselves in the foot right when they have a great opportunity to help themselves. They really just choose not to. And do we know if Kyler Murray's 100%? That's still up in the air as well. Now, it looks like there's some movement toward Los Angeles, which is kind of shocking. So honestly, I would still look toward Arizona. It's a must-win game, as we know, and that doesn't mean it's an automatic bet by any means when a team has to have a must-win game. But I do think just talent-wise, that's going to be out on the field has to favor Arizona. So you give the edge to the better quarterback, we assume, which is Kyler Murray. So I would look the way of the Cardinals in this spot. All
right, to the NFC East, Cowboys at the New York Giants. Winner will make the playoffs and win the NFC East. If Washington loses to the Eagles Sunday night, Dallas laying 1.5, over-under at 45. Danny, the last time the Giants beat the Cowboys was late in 2016. Does that streak end today?
Caitlin, the NFC East is so ugly to handicap and look at. We bet them last week. I took the Eagles at least, and that was really disappointing. And the Cowboys looked really solid, obviously offensively, because Andy Dalton is still a solid veteran quarterback and can get the job done. Is Ezekiel Elliott going to contribute enough today? That's the big question, because the Giants, they don't have a terrible defense. They can show up when they need to, but this is a tricky spot overall. There's always a good option to tease up the Giants as the home dog here, but if I'm making any play here, I do think Dallas gets the win in the end because their defense has slowly improved continuously over the latter half of this year. But more importantly, that offense looks like it's getting in a rhythm. So a slight lean to the Cowboys here. But once again, maybe a matchup you just stay away from because the NFC East is completely ugly to watch and bet on this whole year.
Yeah, ugly may be an understatement for that division. Moving on to the Falcons and Buccaneers. Tampa Bay, the 7-point favorite at home, over under 50.5. Tampa Bay is already in the postseason. Falcons have lost 4 straight. Easy to lean Tampa Bay, Danny, but what's the best betting play here?
I think you teased down Tampa Bay in the spot. We talk about good teaser opportunities, a home favorite right at or above 7, and that falls in line certainly with Tampa Bay. But if you want to just go straight up spread, I think there's a good opportunity also to take the points with Atlanta because like you alluded to, Tampa Bay's already locked up their playoff position. And Atlanta's really been playing solid these past several weeks. They've been keeping it competitive and close, and defensively they're not too shabby, but offensively is where they've been looking better. Still no Julio Jones in this game, but I don't think that's too big of a factor. So overall, I think the best place to bet on Tampa Bay winning the game and tease it down and go with another team, but wouldn't hate on taking the points with Atlanta either.
Finally, we wrap things up with the Seahawks and 49ers. San Francisco catching 6.5 at home. Seattle playing for playoff positioning. Danny, Seattle is 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 road games, over under at 46. I like Seattle, but at 6.5?
You know, it's under the key number of 7, so I would still lean Seattle there. And I don't like to do this because historically it's not a successful teaser spot, but I like them teasing them down as the favorite here in this game because we also have to remember this is a neutral site game in Arizona. So I think you tease down the Seahawks. I think that's a good opportunity because they're still playing for position as well. 49ers are completely banged up.
Before I let you go, give me your best bets recap for Week 17.
All right, so really I only narrowed it down to one bet because Week 17 is always tricky to handicap, but I teased down the Titans in their must-win game as the favorite in the spot, brought them down to -1, and then also, like we just talked about, teasing down the Seahawks, pair those two squads together, just need them to win by at least 2, and hopefully we get our dub for Week 17.
Certainly a hard week to bet on for sure. Well, thank you, Danny, for helping me break down an entire NFL season worth of bets, odds, and props each and every week. It's been fantastic working with you, and thank you for joining us on Props and Locks this season, brought to you by Bet Rivers Sportsbook, Chicago's hometown sportsbook. Remember, you can place bets anytime on the Bet Rivers mobile app or using BetRivers.com. Bucks Kickoff Sunday is next.